less than a week away from the 2025 NFL Draft, and so today we have our next mock draft. This is our mock draft 3.0. We've done two before, but this one's going to be a little different. This one's going to be a very much what I think should happen. Should, not will, not could, not what I think the teams will do. This is what I think should happen in terms of who's the best players and where do they go. That's what I'm going to go off today. Either way, before we get into this video, let me remind you, as always, to check out w.gg. These are my energy drinks. You see them back here? And guess what? If you don't want to try a full tub, they've got these single serving pouches right here. This and this are the exact same thing, other than the fact that this is 30 servings, this is 1. You can get this for just a couple bucks with maybe a shaker or something. Try it out, see if you like it, and then buy some more later. And guess what? I've got a discount code for you for either one, for either thing. And that's code SHRD3R Shredder. Use 10% off for anything on their store. Either way, let's get into this mock draft. So apologies and excuse the mess behind me. I do have a 15-month-old son, and well, now another one on the way. So yeah, that's what I live with. It's what it's gonna be. Yeah, if you have kids, you know that the house is messy sometimes. It's okay. Anyways, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock, and the question is it Cam Ward or is it Hunter or Carter? That's really the top 3 picks at this point. And I don't think Cam Ward is the best player in this draft class by any means, or as this ranks him second best. I think he probably goes, if you're really looking at it, somewhere after probably Tyler Warren, maybe Jalen Walker even. And Shedeur Sanders sure ain't this high either. That is way lower. It's not the greatest quarterback class ever. It's not the worst, but it's not the greatest. Now, the thing is, should they stick with Will Levis? I think Will Levis deserves one last shot, honestly, in terms of he's only really played technically for a year now, with the time he didn't spend playing both years, if you really equate it. So I would say give him one last shot to prove himself, because here's the thing. This roster is not good either way. You're not winning games with Cam Ward this year if you pick him. You're not. It's not. You can't win with just one good player. You have to win with a lot of good players. So I think let Will Levis run it again. Get a really good player, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and, take them. And next year when the quarterback class should be a little better, we don't know for sure, maybe take one then when you kind of know what you're looking at. Because what if Will Levis comes out and does lead you to some wins? Maybe he is a guy who you think you can win with after he's had some development. You don't know. So what should happen? I think what should happen is Abdul Carter should be a Tennessee Titan. I think he is probably, debatably, the best player on the board, and they have no edge rushers. So definitely a big pickup for them there. The Browns, what should happen? They're the Browns, so you really never know with them because, well, the Browns might be the dumbest sports franchise in sports franchise history, in just all of them. So, I don't know. Do they really need a quarterback after bringing in Joe Flacco, after bringing in Kenny Pickett, after still having Deshaun Watson? No. But at the same time, there is no ceiling with any of those guys. And for this team, they have a decent roster put together. They have a decent defense. They have, could they use a receiver like Travis Hunter? In my opinion, Travis Hunter is a receiver over a cornerback. Could they do that? Absolutely. I just, I think what should happen is honestly probably they should take Cameron Ward. They probably should because, let's be real, Cameron Ward probably is better than anybody they have currently. He probably is. Unless Deshaun Watson can return to his form, yeah, he probably is. New York Giants on the clock. They've got some needs. And I don't think quarterback's out of the picture for them here. I actually think quarterback is more in the picture for them as it's coming closer. And this one may be a less of what should happen, but it's going to happen anyways. I feel like this has become a spot for Shedeur Sanders. It's a very new update. I didn't think he'd go this high at all. But I do think the Giants are slowly starting to turn their pages on Shedeur Sanders and feel like they like him more. So I am going to go with him here, even if that's not necessarily a what should happen. However, that opens up a very big, this should absolutely happen, in Travis Hunter being a New England Patriot. There's no doubt in my mind about it. That is a great pick for the New England Patriots. They need a guy like Travis Hunter to help out Drake May, to help out Christian Gonzalez, to do both things. And like I said, I think he's primarily a wide receiver. He goes to this team, and he's wide receiver 1, and he's probably CB2, maybe CB3 if they just want to lower his reps. But Yeah, that's a great pick. This is probably one of the most consistently mocked picks in this entire draft, but it's just incredibly true. Mason Graham to the Jaguars. Should it happen this time? I don't know, because here's another thing. Will Campbell, a very good tackle prospect. Don't get it twisted. And this team needs to protect their quarterback. They have given Trevor Lawrence next to nothing in terms of help since he's gotten into the league. Well, they brought in Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley sucks, okay? They brought in Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk sucks as well. Like, that's not helping him. They got Brian Thomas Jr. He looks like he's really freaking good. They can get a receiver later in this draft class, but I think Will Campbell is a guy who you should take him. Because at this point, you've paid Trevor Lawrence. You have made your bed. It's time to sleep in it. And you have to sleep in a bed that has no help, that has no protection, that has no weapons. Get him help. Get Trevor Lawrence help. It's necessary. Moving on to the Raiders. Raiders, Mason Graham being here is a new one. And, he is probably overall debatably the best player on the board here. However, the Raiders have a similar problem to the Jaguars. Their O-line has been horrible for so long. Now, they could also very much take an Ashton Jeanty. They could very much take a Tetairoa McMillan. They don't have good receivers there. But I am going to go with something different here. I think Mason Graham is the last blue chip true prospect here because running backs are running backs. They're kind of graded differently. Don't get me wrong. I love Ashton Jeanty. But Mason Graham, being on the board still, I think it's kind of a pick that has to happen. Pairing him with Christian Wilkins, he kind of being your nose guard. And then you have Christian Wilkins as like your 3-tech or 3-eye. And you have Max Crosby on the edge. Dude, that is sick. That is just reviling. Like, that is going to be terrifying. That makes, the Black Hole Raiders, that brings them back out, man. The Jets on the board, they need help, man, a lot of ways. They have their left tackle, Olu Fashanu. They drafted him last year. I am not worried about that one bit. I think what should happen here is they need to help Justin Fields in whatever way they can. And not that he's going to do any better because Justin Fields just isn't a good football player. He's a great football player. He's not a good quarterback. I'll say that much. But what can you help him with? Let's assume they keep Breece Hall for now because we haven't really heard much about that, the trade rumors or whatever. I think Armand Membu being here is a big one. He could play guard or tackle. That right tackle spot does need filled, and he could do that well. Or Tyler Warren. I think that is where we are at with this pick. Tyler Warren has been rising through the ranks, and that is where we're going to go. I think Tyler Warren replaces Tyler Conklin and becomes a very big help for them. He can help take the pressure off of Garrett Wilson, take the pressure off of Breece Hall. This guy can do anything. He can line up as a true tight end and block his butt off. He can line up in the backfield as a fullback, block his butt off. He can line up as a running back and run the ball for all I care. That dude is a baller. Get him the ball, let him do it. And, now we're looking at the Panthers, who have a similar issue to a lot of these teams that we've already talked about. They have a young quarterback who they have to help and develop. And they did a lot of work on their O-line last year. They brought in Robert Hunt and the one from Seattle, Lewis, the guard from Seattle. They have Taylor Moton and Akim Ekwonu. They don't have a center necessarily, but that's okay. You're not drafting a center at number 8. What don't you have? You don't have a receiver to help your stinking quarterback out. Let's get Tetairoa McMillan in here, and he instantly becomes your number 1 receiver. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that. Now you have 2 big body receivers in him and Xavier Legette. Xavier Legette's kind of more so he could play more. He's not, he's big for sure, but he plays a little bit different style. Tetairoa McMillan is your real true X receiver. This guy's more like Legette's more like your, maybe your Z, maybe your F receiver, where, kind of like a Deebo Samuel. He's a little bit more gadgety than your normal standard wide receiver. So we'll pick up Tetairoa McMillan, help Bryce Young out, and let's see if he can become something. The Saints, they wish Shedeur Sanders was on the board here. He has gone off the board at 3, so they have other things to worry about. I don't think this Derek Carr thing is going to make them change. I think they need to do what they need to do and just do whatever that is. And you could argue that O-line is a big part of that. They lost Ryan Ramczyk. Their left tackle pick from the last few years have not played out. Armand Membu makes a lot of sense here, and we're doing it. Not a sexy pick, but, man, they need it. They did take, what's his name, last year from Washington State. I can't remember his name right now. I'm blanking. But I don't remember. Wow, that really bothers me. He was from Washington State. He was a guard-tackle combo. I know everything about him. I just don't remember. I think he's playing guard. But Armand Membu, he can play your right tackle. He can play your left tackle. He can play a guard. Whatever you want him to do, get him and just help shore up whoever's going to be playing quarterback. And, they're another team. They're aiming for next year for their quarterback. They should be. The Bears. Ashton Jeanty is a fun pick here because of what their offense could look like with the dynamic receivers and tight end and quarterback and now Ashton Jeanty. But should they do that? They haven't. Darnell Wright wasn't a great pick in the first round a few years ago. What's their left tackle's name? I am blanking again, man. He was Braxton Jones. He's not a great tackle either. They brought in a couple guys for their guard positions this year. That's gonna help. They brought in Drew Dahlman. That's gonna help. But what else can they do, man? I mean, they could go with another receiver to help out. They really do need an edge rusher. They really need an edge rusher. I think we've seen Ben Johnson has gone a whole year now, year after year actually, of having a great offense but having a lackluster defense and not being able to get to the passer enough outside of Aiden Hutchinson in Detroit. Could you go and pair Montez Sweat with a Jalen Walker, a Shamar Stewart, somebody like that, Michael Williams even? I think Jalen Walker being here on the board, it makes some sense. Let's go and take Jalen Walker here as a different pick. That should happen. They really do need help on their defensive side, their defensive front. And that's a good pick for them. They can wait on running back. There's a lot of good running backs in this class. They can get that, maybe even land Amarian Hampton in the top of the second round. If not, you got Quinton Judkins. You've got Travion Henderson. There's other guys here. The Niners. D-tackle. Cornerback. They just, this is a what should happen draft, right? I really feel like Will Johnson to the Niners makes a lot of sense. I like the fit there. I think he replaces Travarius Ward very, very well. Give me Will Johnson to the Niners. We're not talking about it anymore. The Cowboys. They need O-line help, for sure. They definitely do. But I think there is, something else conspiring here that we're going to look at. And, it's the fact that you got to help your quarterback out once again. And the Cowboys are the Cowboys. They're very different than a lot of other teams. For better or for worse, we'll say. They've lost, what's his name? I'm blanking on names right now. It's kind of early in the morning, so I'm just losing my names right now. They're edge rusher with Micah Parsons, who's been there for years. DeMarcus Lawrence, there we go. Took me a second, but I'll get it. Excuse me about that. But, they lost him. I don't know if they can, I don't know. That's a possibility, but it's a little too early for a guard, in my opinion. Even though Tyler Booker's a great player, they could trade down. The problem is you got to have somebody to come up. Could somebody come up for Genty or Banks or Golden or Green even? I don't feel like that is so right now. I don't feel like that would happen. So at this point, I think the Cowboys stick and pick. I think they go with a guy who's going to help them develop their receiving core. And it's also going to help them, get somebody with CeeDee Lamb. And honestly, I feel like it's not going to be Matthew Golden. I feel like their kind of pick will be much more so. Where is he at? Let me just do this. But a lot easier if I do this. A lot more so of a Luther Burden. Luther Burden top 12. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Luther Burden's falling down mock draft boards, and I don't see why. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins, there is no other option here other than O-line. They really can't afford to do anything else. With their situation with Tua, obviously we know what that is. They just don't have another option, really. Looking at the ones available, Simmons, potential first-round grade, but Kelvin Banks is far and away the best guy here. I think he's probably better than Armand Membu as a tackle. It's just Armand Membu has the flexibility to a guard better. So just kind of more positional versatility kind of helps him in a sense because he can for sure play tackle. But he also has that ability to flex to guard if you need it. Kelvin Banks is a tackle to me. I don't think there's anything about that. He is a Dolphin. And the Colts here. I don't think they love the fact that Tyler Warren goes as early as he does. I think he's a guy they would absolutely take if they were here. However, they could do a lot of things. They really could use a lot of help in a lot of places. Obviously, I think their receiving core is fine for now. They have not been able to hit on edge rushers just about ever. Leatu Latu was fine last year, but there's still another hole of that. And, Kwity Paye wasn't able to do it. Different guys they've had just aren't able to do it. Their D-line in general is not bad. It's just their edge rushers aren't great. They could use linebacker. However, there is Jahad Campbell. That would be kind of a fun one. I have not thought about that. That would be very fun. Is Jahad Campbell a linebacker worth the 14th pick, though? I don't think so. So you're really looking at, could they go O-line? Absolutely. They lost a couple guys this year. Tyler Booker's a guy they could take. Gray Zabel's another guy they could take. They're not going receiver. Genty, I don't think they need that. I like Gray Zabel here. Gray Zabel is a guy who's been rising through the draft process from North Dakota State. He played tackle at North Dakota State. He's probably a guard. They just lost a couple guys. I think both went to Minnesota. So that's a thing they could use. Gray Zabel is a great pick for them in terms of just bolstering their O-line, making sure that whoever's playing quarterback has a chance, right? Whether or not that is actually true or not. Moving on. The Falcons here, they need an edge rusher, and that is no doubt about it in my mind. They need defense. They're strictly going defense this draft. They've said it themselves. I guess unless something posed itself to them, let's say they had the running back situation of the Raiders. and Genty's on the board here, I would consider taking him there, obviously, but not here. Not the biggest fan of Shamar Stewart. Mike Green could be good. Mykel Williams, I'm a big fan of Mykel Williams. I think he goes here. I like this fit with him in Atlanta. You know, he's a bit of a bigger guy. He's 6'5", 260. But I just think he's a baller. He kind of, to me, in the early parts of the draft process, I thought he could potentially have the rise that Trayvon Walker kind of did in his draft class, where he was like, oh yeah, he might be like a 20-some-odd pick, but then I don't know, he came the 1 pick. And I could have seen that from Mykel Williams. I'm not saying I predicted it, but like, if it happened, it wouldn't have really shocked me, because this guy kind of has really great tools like he did, and just is a physical beast. So give me that right there. Moving on to the Cardinals, I think we go back to back in the edge rusher department, or defensive tackle. Looking at the defensive tackles, we haven't had one go yet. Walter Nolan may be the best one here. Derek Harmon, I really think these three, Harmon, Nolan, and Grant, are just about tied. They're all different players. Well, Nolan and Harmon are much more similar. But, Nolan's going to be your guy, versatile all over the line. Harmon is, kind of your 3-eye, maybe 5-eye at best. 3-eye is probably your best position, but moving him out 5-eye, is kind of as wide as it gets. But Kenneth Grant is strictly a nose. So you've got 3 different players here. But they're all just about as good as one another, in my opinion. I don't see a problem with them. They could go as early as, honestly, they could go as early as, they're good enough to go anywhere around this area, just behind the top 10. I don't think they're top 10 players, but they're really good players, no doubt about it. Now, did they rather go receiver and help out that? Maybe. Would they rather go O-line? Tyler Booker, much better spot for him. Josh Simmons, get another Ohio State tackle. That'd be fine, I think. But I think the defense is too pressing. They have had some rough go at it, and you got to remember who their coach is. It's Jonathan Gannon. He's a defensive mind. He's going to want his players to be good. Looking at Mike Green, we got a 6'3", 250 type of player. Looking at, who's the other one that I was looking at a minute ago? James Pierce, a guy who could definitely go. He kind of, to me, fits the Cardinals draft profile more so out of these guys. But I think at this point, we're going to go D-tackle. I think Walter Nolan is probably their guy. He's much more versatile. As I said, he's a 3-tech, but he can play out in the 5. I don't have a problem with that. He's only 21. I like that a lot. But he's a big, just raw, just option for you to do whatever you want with. There's a lot there you can work with. So I'm a fan of that. The Bengals on the clock. They could be going in a similar direction, or they could go with a guy like Malachi Starks, who I think is a need for them. After losing Jesse Bates, they have been putrid in their secondary, and I think he was a big part of that. Jesse Bates is definitely a good safety. Malachi Starks can play a role similar to him and come in and just really help them shore up their secondary. They need it bad. Going to the Seahawks. O-line is in play here, no doubt about that. Receiver is definitely in play. I think Matthew Golden on the board, they're elated. Get him. He's your outside. You have JSN on the inside. Got to have somebody to throw to for Sam Darnold, right? Got to have somebody. So let him do it, okay? Moving on. Buccaneers. Ooh, this is an interesting one. I don't know what to do here. I think edge has been my normal pick, and I think that's still very much in play. Looking at the cornerback position. Jahdae Barron. That could be nice. Did Maxwell Hairston play himself up into a first-round player? I think that's possible. I think that's definitely possible. Safety position, Eman Wari may be the only guy here. I don't think he's a first-round player. I don't at all. They could use a D-tackle, not so much the Kenneth Grant. They would be a Derek Harmon team. They could even use Jahad Campbell. Yes, they have Levante David, but did he resign yet? I think he did. I think he's already come back one more time. But they got to have somebody to develop behind him, right? And I kind of like that Jahad Campbell pick there. I kind of like that. We'll take Jahad Campbell here to be, the next linebacker. Great for the Buccaneers. I think that's very possible. Jahad Campbell is a crazy linebacker. Runs with his hair on fire. The Broncos. Genty just fell. Man, he just fell. And I think Sean Payton will love Ashton Genty. Absolutely. Maybe even do I want to say Pierre Thomas? Mark Ingram? Do I kind of like those? There's kind of similarities back in the day for the Saints, back with Sean Payton there. I think I like that Pierre Thomas comp. That's a fun one, actually. And, Ashton Genty falls all the way to 20. Goes from being a Bronco to a Bronco. Doesn't change anything there. Keeps nearly the same color scheme and everything. What a move for Ashton Genty, right? I think that's probably his floor. I think if he lands all the way at 20, I think Denver will take him without a doubt in their mind. Pittsburgh on the clock. Who do they want? They could go with the guard, for sure. That's possible. Could they go quarterback here? I don't think it's worth it at all. I don't think the gap from Shadur to Will Howard, Quinn Ewers is enough to take them in the first round, and that's, from here to there. We've got some options. If they trade TJ, which I beg them not to, Mike Green's here. If they want to go with something they kind of need, Jahdae Barron would be a great pick for them. Emeka Egbuka would be something. They could put him in the slot. George Pickens and DK on the outside. Wonderful receiver room. They could go Amarian Hampton. They need a running back. There's a lot of things here. But I think Derek Harmon, at his height, at his weight, is very much Cam Hayward. Very much Cam Hayward. Very similar. And I think he's the guy who's going to be, kind of in waiting to be the next Cam Hayward. They had a struggle playing with some, and let me say this. Steelers fans really argued last year that the running game was so bad. Our run defense was so bad. We got to get better on the run. We got to take a D-tackle first round. We were like top 6 in run defense all year. You're basing it off of one game versus Derrick Henry, who, yeah, he's a good running back. We're going to stink it up against him every now and then. What do you want to do? I don't think it's a necessary pick, but I think Harmon here is just a great fit with Pittsburgh. It makes too much sense. And also, Pittsburgh drafts with the three they're very consistent, and they meet with their players 3 times who they draft in the first few rounds. It's, the combine, the pro day, and the top 30 visits. They meet them all 3 times, and that's who they draft. And Derek Harmon fills that box. So we're going to go with the Chargers here. They could very much see this slight run on D tackles and take, once again, Michigan man Kenneth Grant. I would actually really like that for them. I think he would fit very well there. However, Colston Loveland's on the board, another Michigan man, and I like that a lot more. Justin Herbert needs more help, and you have to help this guy out. Justin Herbert gets hated on a lot because he's not done anything. In my opinion, that's because his team has sucked. I think Justin Herbert could be easily a top 5 quarterback in this league, but he's not able to do anything because he doesn't have any help. He's got Quentin Johnson who doesn't know how to catch. Ladd McConkey, great player. Get Colston Loveland here. You got some help, man. You got some really good help, that's for sure. The Green Bay Packers on the clock. I really like the fit of Jahdae Barron with the Green Bay Packers. I think I've done that multiple times, and I think I like it even more today than I have yesterday. Should they take Emeka Egbuka? They could. I don't think he's really the kind of receiver they need right now, though. I think they could wait around, try to get a Higgins or even a Besh or a Aomanor. Anything over there, I think they'd be a lot better off for them. What else? They could go D-tackle, but they don't necessarily need that. I think if where is he at? If Jahad Campbell was here, that could be a pick for them. They love taking their defensive guys in the first round. However, Jahdae Barron, here's the guy we're going to go with. They're probably losing Jair Alexander. They lost Eric Stokes. They need more help in the cornerback room, and Jahdae Barron is a dog. Take him off the board. Don't even think twice about it. The Minnesota Vikings. They are upset that Jahdae Barron just went, I bet. They like their edge rushers too, but they got Van Ginkel. They got Jonathan Grenard. They're fine. Offensively, they could go with a Booker. They could be a Booker team. I think it's a little rich. Could they be an Amarian Hampton landing spot? I kind of like that in a way. Let's see. Kenneth Grant, not a bad option. This is a weird one here. I'm not going to lie to you. Eman Warrior, I just don't feel like he is a top prospect. If you watch the tape on him, yes, he's a physical specimen. RAS score of 10. If you watch the tape, he misses tackles so bad. It is bad. Very, very, very bad. Like, it is not good. This is a trade-up spot. I think we're trading something here. I think we are trading something here. I know who it is. The Minnesota Vikings are going to trade back, and I'm just going to make this trade work. The package is not going to be synonymous with the New Orleans Saints, okay? They're going to get 24, they're going to get 40, and they're going to get a first and a second next year just to make it work. Not going to work. Okay, wow, okay. I didn't think that. I thought that would be fine. Where are we at here? Minnesota, New Orleans, 24, first, second, third, 40. What in the world? Is Minnesota rejecting this? Hold on. Let me just get this fixed. Okay, the package doesn't matter. I just got the trade done. The Saints here, they need a quarterback, right? They picked Armand Mimbu at 9. They're going to trade back up and grab themselves a quarterback. Now, the Vikings, you can say, why would they trade back? Right here, you see their needs. These are some of their needs. I think there's other ones here. I don't feel like any of these guys are worth drafting for them right now. They don't really need the edge that bad to draft Mike Green or Shamar Stewart or even Nick Scorton or anybody like that. They don't need the quarterback, obviously. They don't really have a... I think cornerback is definitely a position they need and could take, but I think all these guys might even... Every one of these guys could possibly be there at the Saints pick, which is only like, 30... Maybe it was 40, I think, on the nose. Like, you're only moving back, 20 spots-ish, not even 16 spots, and you might be able to land, if these 5 are kind of your top prospects here left, maybe even, Porter too, let's these 6, 3 to 4 of them are easily going to be available at 40. I don't see a problem with that at all. I think it's a great spot to move down, great spot to move up. Coming in, quarterback, which one do you want? Is Shook a guy that you think is good enough? I think you probably go with Jackson Dart here. That's not what I meant to do. Full report on Jackson Dart here. No, sir, not what I meant to do. Jackson Dart goes to the Saints at 24. They get that 5th-year option. That's a big part of this as well. Not New Orleans Saints. The Houston Texans, Tyler Booker. They just lost Shaq Mason. Their O-line was just hot garbage last year. Tyler Booker is the foundation of a wall. This dude is massive. Let's see what his measurables look at. 6'4", 320. Yeah, I'll take that. His legs are stronger than a horse, and he's not moving for you. So you're either going around him or over him, and I don't think you're going over at 6'4". So anyways, Tyler Booker, great pick. Solidify that line. Very much needed. The Rams, they need a lot of help on defense, man. A lot of help on defense. However, I kind of like this Emeka Egbuka pick here. They could do that. That's kind of interesting. That is kind of interesting. What is this? Siobhan Revel could be here. Ben Morrison. I don't know. I like those two right now for this team fit, but I don't feel like they're necessary yet. I feel like the edge position here is going to be what they go with. I think Mike Green's fallen a little bit. We'll take Mike Green. He goes to the Rams, and him and Jared Verse are going to be a nasty duo for a while. The Ravens here, they're upset Booker just went because they would have taken Booker very fast, I believe. Josh Simmons is here, but I don't think they so much need a tackle. I think here, there's a guy here that I really like the fit of. It's James Pierce Jr. Their edge rushers have not worked. They've taken Adafe Owe. They had a Ojulari, I believe, or no, it's the one from Michigan. Ojabo, excuse me. And it just hasn't worked. James Pierce Jr., very freak athlete. Some head case issues potentially with his anger and things like that. But Baltimore's a great place to go for that. They got John Harbaugh, who's a great coach, and he can manage that well. The Lions. I think they're upset that Pierce just went because they would have taken him. They could be a Scorton team or Shamar Stewart. I don't like Shamar Stewart, man. Yeah, upside gamble in every sense of the word. Absolute RAS 10. You got a great athlete. But let me tell you what, son. Athlete doesn't mean good football player. We've seen that over and over again. Over and over and over again. I don't feel like that's a need here. Edge is a massive, massive, massive need. But who else? I think Scorton here probably makes the most sense. In terms of, just a lot of the things he can do. I think he's probably the best guy, best fit for this team. I don't think Shamar Stewart, is really their type of player. I think Izaraku's probably too much of a speed rusher. Scorton probably is your best bet. Give me Scorton to the Lions. Going on to the Washington Commanders. We've got 3 edge players in a row. Could we go with 4? That is very possible. Very, very possible. There's other things here that need help, though. Definitely some other things here they could use some help with. I want to look at something real quick. Give me just 1 second. So I found what I was looking for, and it's fine there, what I was thinking. So I think here we're either going corner or we're going edge. There's no other way around it. And I don't think corner is as big of a need. I think, especially with the guys here on the board, like I've said before, you got 6 dudes here that are solid. You can wait. These guys are they're potential first-round guys, no doubt about it. All 6 of them could go in the first round. But they also very much can go in the second round. I think your edge rusher is the bigger need. For them, they could be a Shamar Stewart team. I feel like that is a fit for them. He's a bigger guy, athlete. I feel like they like that more so. Izaraku's kind of the opposite end of that. He's 6'2", 250, a little bit smaller. But I feel like that's still possible. I do feel like that's possible here. Currently, you're looking at Cleveland Farrell and Dorrance Armstrong. These are not small guys, so that's why I pull Shamar Stewart. But maybe they want to change of pace. We're thinking Dan Quinn. We're thinking He had Micah Parsons and did a lot of good things with him. Let's go with Donovan Izaraku. If that's how you say that. I'm not sure. I think that makes some sense, and maybe Dan Quinn wants to shift it up a little bit. Get a new guy, get a different type of player. That is 4 edge players in a row, and Buffalo's not doing that. They could do it, but they're not going to. There's a guy here who I think makes too much sense to pass on for Buffalo, and that is Emeka Egbuka. They need help in the receiver room. They just definitely do. It's an absolute fact. Keon Coleman on the outside. Khalil Shakir can be kind of your outside shifty guy, you know. He's not necessarily a slot player. Emeka Egbuka is a slot player. He is a big slot. You know, you could put both in the slot when you go 4 wide, absolutely, but I think that's a really good receiver room, a young receiver room that you can develop and let Josh Allen make them into the receivers he wants them to be. That'd be awesome. Moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs as we round out this first round. Josh Simmons being here is an attractive piece, not going to lie about that, okay? I need to see something really fast once again. I need to check one thing. I'm checking on, I don't remember if they had a guy leave in a certain position. Give me just 1 second. Pulling up my depth chart on my phone. Yeah, they did. Yeah, okay. That's what I'm doing. Josh Simmons. Their left tackle position needs filled. They need tackles that aren't going to jump off sides. Give them another option. Just let them do it. That's what I was expecting, but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something there. And the Eagles. This is another trade down spot. Is there a quarterback here that somebody wants to come up and get? Milroe, I don't think so. Shook, maybe. I think, in my opinion, hot take as it may be, I think Quinn Ewers is probably the second best quarterback in this class. He could have been the first had he not been hurt this year. You know, and I understand why people might put him down at the 4th or 5th because of, you know, the issues he did show. But I think the upside with him is way higher than the upside of Howard or Shook or Milroe. Dart even, or maybe even Shedeur Sanders. I just think he could be better. I think there's more upside there. Probably a much better passer than all of them day one. Not probably definitely actually. But anyways, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. The Eagles here, they did lose Darius Slay. I think cornerback here does make a lot of sense. You know, talking about a man guy, Siobhan Revel could be an option there. Ben Morrison is a bit more physical guy. I think Ben Morrison here, you know, you put him as your CB2, Cooper DeJean in the nickel position, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Ben Morrison to the Eagles, I think that is our draft. Full results here, looking at it. Some of the interesting picks of this one. Cam Ward falls to 2. Shedeur goes at 3. You know, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, that's kind of a swap to some degree. You know, we got Ted McMillan at 8, Tyler Warren at 7. We've got, let's see, Luther Burden all the way up at 12, Greg Zabel at 14. Matthew Golden to the Seahawks. I like that a lot, actually. Genty falls all the way to 20, and the Broncos land the former Bronco. Colson Loveland back to Jim Harbaugh's team. Jackson Dart is a trade-up candidate from the Vikings. They move down, collect more assets, and give the chance for the Saints to draft Jackson Dart in the first round. So we got 3 first-round QBs. We got Emeka Egbuka to that. We got a run of 4 edge rushers right here, dude. Run of 4 of them. And then we round out with Simmons and Morrison. So let me know what you think about your team's draft. Vikings fans, I want to know what you think about my trade down. Would you like that, moving down to try to, you know, gather assets later? It was a pretty big package I had to send. However, I don't think that would be accurate necessarily. Either way, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who is your favorite pick of my draft? Who did you like what I did with your team? Either way, thank y'all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.